confidence comes in failing. The confidence comes in trying again and getting a little bit better every single time. Confidence is the byproduct of action. So we need to get out of our head and into action. Welcome to the High Vibe Life podcast, where we are obsessed with all things manifestation, neuroscience, personal growth, and quite simply, living a life beyond our wildest dreams. I'm Moira Kucaba, author, speaker, podcaster, manifestation, and mindset master. Since getting sober 25 years ago, I've helped tens of thousands of women break through and achieve massive levels of wealth, joy, and freedom. Now it's your turn. Let's dig in. Welcome back to the High Vibe Life podcast with me, Moira Kucaba, and I am wondering if this message is for you today. If you are the one that needs that little push to do the dang thing, because here's the reality. We can't wait until we feel ready, because the reality is we don't ever usually feel ready to do whatever it is that we are hesitating on. And so I'm going to dive deep a little bit and kind of expose behind the curtain a little bit of my own experience with this, which might leave you like shocked, jaw open, about how often I leap, and I am so not ready, y'all. So not ready. So when I first decided and kind of heard this whisper of like, this is a message you need to share because it's so important. Guys, I coach thousands of people. I understand how many people get stuck in overthinking and don't take the leap to do the dang thing. Whatever it is, it could be to send the message, to post on social media, to start the business, to launch the podcast. It could be big, it could be small, but we have to learn to leap before we're ready. And so for some reason this morning when I was thinking about this topic and my brain was literally exploding with all these different thoughts and ideas and experiences that I've had, the first one that kind of popped into my mind is this conversation I had with my older brother. So we have a very complicated family, and my older brother, John, is 19 years older than me and very successful, has 4 kids. They're all grown now, and they have kids of their own. But back when I was in my 20s, Brian and I were married, and we weren't in a rush to have a family. We wanted to build our home first, and we wanted to do all these things. And I remember going home one year and my brother being like, when are you having kids? And I was like, oh, wow, we really want to be settled. And, we want to build the house. And I was looking at his life. He is 19 years older than me, very successful. And I remember kind of saying like you. I want to be like you. And he looked at me and he said, do you have any idea what my life looked like when I had Sarah, which is his oldest daughter? And I was like, well, no. I mean, I was only, I think, 8 years old when they had her. And he painted the reality of the shoestring budget and life situation that they had going on that I didn't know about back then, right? So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that we can't compare, and we've all heard this expression before, this quote, we can't compare our chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. I felt like in my mid-20s that I needed to get to chapter 10 before I was ready to have a baby. And then he told me, he said, listen, I get where you're coming from, but that ain't never going to happen. First of all, there's no reason to wait. You don't have to be living in a home that you built and have financial security to have a baby. You can have a baby at any time. But you also are never going to arrive. You're never going to arrive at that place where you feel like, okay, all of our ducks are in a row. Everything is perfect. Now we're going to have this baby. So that was the first experience that I really had. And I had experiences before that, but I hadn't linked it up to the feeling ready part. So now that I'm sharing that story with you, I do want to take it one step back, actually. So maybe this experience was first and a huge, huge, huge eye-opener for me. So back when I was 21 years old, I was getting certified in teaching Pilates, which was not a weekend certification like it is now. It was a 2-year program. It was a 2-year program filled with kinesiology majors, PAs, people with all kinds of degrees, advanced degrees. And it was a very, very high level, intense program, to the point where I would like cry at night because it was so overwhelming. The anatomy, the physiology, all the things I needed to learn. And I condensed the degree. I got it actually in a year. That's probably why I was crying at night. But the 2-year program took 1. And when I got that certification, I started teaching. And guys, it's funny because there are lots and lots and lots of people in this world that I eventually taught Pilates to. I owned multiple studios around town over the years. And I was a really, really amazing instructor. I was a really good Pilates instructor. I trained a lot of instructors under me. I was horrible when I started. I was absolutely horrible. And so I had to leap well before I was ready. Brain knowledge, head knowledge did not translate at all to being a good teacher, right? I became a good instructor by doing lots of hours of instructing. Think about any teacher. We all know so many teachers that have been hugely impactful in our lives. Do you think that they were amazing teachers the first year in the classroom? No, they were probably absolute messes, right? They learned as they went. And so often we think that people have natural talents and you're just naturally a good teacher or you're naturally a good speaker. I love when my friend Brendan Burchard shares that in his first, speaking engagement, or I don't want to call it a conference because it definitely wasn't a conference, because there were like 3 people there, 2 of which were his family members. Like that was Brendan's first speaking experience. He today is one of the world's greatest speakers, but not because Brendan has a natural talent and gifting in the speaking world. It's because he honed his craft. He worked on his skill set over time, right? And so, right? And we have to start at chapter 1. So whether you're in conversations, if maybe you're in sales, right? I always say you get good at selling by selling. You get good at conversations by having 1,000 conversations. You get good at social media by posting 1,000 times on social media. You get good at speaking by falling on your face speaking. You get good at whatever it is by doing the thing, not by reading about it, not by listening to a podcast, not by getting certified or trained in it even. And so we have to understand, and I remember it back in the day, I used to teach, this just came to mind, when I used to teach social media and be coaching people through this, I used to say, listen, what if I told you that the 500th time that you post on social media, the 500th time, you're going to be amazing. Like you will have arrived. You will have become an expert in the space. You will have become influential. You will have figured out really how to do this thing. But you got to go through the first 499 to get there. Are you willing to do the first 499 to arrive at that place where you have that level of expertise, where you have that level of influence? That goes for every single thing we are talking about. We think that confidence is a prerequisite for action. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Confidence is the byproduct of action, right? Confidence is the byproduct of action. So we need to get out of our head and into action. Here's the other side of this. We want to know the long road. If you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you've heard this probably at least 2 other times. I always say it's the greatest analogy. It's so amazing. I also say it can't be mine. I've never figured out if I read this in a book, if I came up with it by myself, but I don't think I came up with it by myself. We want to know the 18 holes, right? What's going to happen at the end of 18 holes? We can't We're never going to know that, right? We're never going to know that. We can have a plan. We can have an idea. We can have a direction and go, okay, this is my plan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 18. This is the direction I'm going in, but we also have to be totally okay with knowing that's probably not going to happen. And we just have to focus on one hole at a time. So the analogy that I love to share is driving a car. And I was just out of, my hometown. I was in a totally random place, driving on dark roads, unfamiliar roads. And I always think about this when I find myself on completely unfamiliar roads. I have no idea what's coming. I have no idea where this road goes. I literally have no idea if the road's going to go to the right, if the road's going to go to the left, if we're going to go over a huge hilltop. I have no idea where this road goes. Yet I will drive the speed limit, whether that's 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever it is, in the dark, having no idea what is around the corner 100 yards. I have headlights on, right? So I know what is right in front of the car. And guess what? That's all we need to see. That, my friends, is the secret. We can have a plan. We can have, that long-term idea of where we think we might be going. But all we got to do is know what's right in front of us in order to take that immediate action. And guys, going with the car analogy, I'm not talking about starting the car, driving 10 feet, stopping, thinking through what the lights are showing you. Is it safe? Should I go? You would never get anywhere in life, right? You've got to drive at 50 miles an hour, trusting that the path will be illuminated as you go. And that, my friends, is how you build your confidence. Again, everybody says, gosh, I wish I had your level of confidence. Well, guess what? I failed 1,000 times. I didn't die. Some things worked out. And along the way, I built my confidence. That is how you can build your confidence as well. So you can't get stuck in the learning phase. Don't get stuck in the learning phase. Don't get stuck in the thinking phase. Get stuck in the doing phase. I'll give you this last little nugget because this was so powerful to me. This was, maybe 12 years ago. I was newer into the direct sales space and so hungry for success, so, bright-eyed and just wanting all of it. And I was sitting in the audience and I was listening to some of the best of the best of the best up on stage give their advice. And I was hanging on to every word, but there was one question that was asked. And I was like, oh, I need to know the answer to this. And somebody asked the expert, what do you tell people who are struggling in their business? Or no, wait, how is this question specifically asked? Oh, here it was. Because I always love to hear not only what to do, but what not to do, right? Like that is a huge thing. I'm always like, okay, I know everything to do, but like, where are the minefields? Like, what should I avoid at all costs? Where do I have to stay away from? Even if that's like, in leadership, you can't get too emotional, right? I remember hearing that or reading that one time and I was like, oh, okay, avoid anger, right? If you want to be a good leader. And so somebody asked, what is the biggest mistake new people make? And I was like on the edge of my seat. And I'll never forget the expert pausing. She looked like a queen up on that stage. And she said, thinking. And she passed the mic. Literally, she was expected to, speak for a few minutes on her answer. And she literally said one word, thinking. And she passed the mic to the next person. Next. And I will never forget it because it is so true. And I saw that in myself at the time. And I knew I had to get out of it. I had to get out of the thinking and into the action. Out of the thinking and into the action. Because how did we start this out? You will never, ever arrive at a place where you feel 100% confident or 100% ready. You got to start flexing that muscle that is going to help you just leap. And once you do it 5 or 10 times and you don't die, It becomes that much more comfortable. Take action in the moment of inspiration. Take action in the moment of desperation is also what I say. The first one is a Tony Robbins quote. Take action in the moment of inspiration. So that thought comes, you take action, right? Don't pause and marinate on the thought. The thought comes, the inspired thought, you take action immediately. That also can be a desperate thought, right? I can't do this anymore. Take action. And so I'll leave you with one little story. I said I was going to pull back the curtain and you're going to be like, you're crazy. So back 10 years ago, I used to run a lot of free kind of groups. Like I would do a 5-day gratitude group, or I would do a 10-day fitness challenge, or I would do, something around all these different topics that I wanted to share and teach on. And obviously, when you run a group like that, you want to have a curriculum, you want to have content, you want to have, images to share, maybe some worksheets for people to do. Like you have to create the experience. And here's what I did. And it happened by mistake the first time. And then I thought, oh my gosh, that's the smartest thing I could do. So the very first time I remember this so clear as day. I was in my living room. I don't know if I was on my phone or my computer, but I remember sharing on Facebook at the time. I don't even think I had Instagram back then, that I was going to do a 10-day ab challenge. And I was just sharing what I was doing. I wasn't inviting to it. There wasn't anything that we were doing. I just mentioned how I was going to be doing this. I don't know what else the post said. And next thing I know, about 30 minutes later, I'm not exaggerating when I say there were about, I want to say there were 78. I remember that number. There were 78 comments that were like, I want in, I'm in. And I was like, whoa. I didn't say I was creating a challenge or running a challenge or doing anything. I just said I was doing this. And then all of a sudden I thought, I guess I'm running a group. I guess we are doing this, right? And so I basically advertised the group unbeknownst to me. I didn't know that's what I was doing, right? That wasn't the intention. And then I came up with the content. And, it's a free group, so it's not that hard, right? But we overcomplicate everything. And so the next time, it was like a couple weeks later, I was like, gosh, I should, that was really fun. It filled my heart. It was so great to, build my pipeline for my business. And I was like, I should do another group. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do the research. I'm going to have to craft the content. I'll have to spend another day, pulling images for the group. I'm going to have to create the group. I'm going to build out the group, all the things, right? So this was going to just keep getting pushed, kicked down the road. It's a free group. It's going to take time. I don't know, whatever. You get the point. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to hold my feet to the fire and I'm just going to announce it before I've created it. I'm going to announce it before I've created it. And so I went on Facebook again and I said, great news, big news. I'm running another group and this is what it is. And this is the, topic and da-da-da-da. And I gave kind of a couple bullet points of details. And again, I had 25, 30 people say they wanted to be in the group. And I thought, okay, I guess I better come up with some content. I will tell you the first time I did that ab challenge group, I said that on a Friday night, totally unintending to be doing anything, leading anybody. And that group started on a Monday. I held my feet to the fire. I collapsed time and I made myself get into radical action instead of overthinking and overcomplicating. It never would have happened if I was waiting to feel ready, right? So pull the trigger, take action in the moment of inspiration. Here's the end of that quote. That commits you to the end result. It commits you to the end result, right? All right, guys, that is it for today. So like I started this podcast off, I really am curious. I want to hear from you. If you're like, Moira, that podcast was for me. I needed to hear that today. I would love to hear from you. Share that with me. Share this with a friend that might need to hear it because, guys, we're all so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And I'm here to tell you, you are way more than ready. We'll see you next week.